carrier bags and nostalgia. Memory was sometimes a ghost, offering a gift you don't always want instead of a possession you already have. That is a quote from a wild and wonderful book. An evolutionary theory which is known more for spurring a literary philosophy. I have carried a little dabble into this for some time, feeling for no particular reason that there was more to it than what was swirling in my head. Maybe there is, maybe this is what it is, but I will always have time for thoughts from Ursula K Le Guin. They are accompanied by a generous splash of nostalgia. So here's this edition, preferably consumed with a steaming hot cup. Life is a bag. Ancient Earth, prehistoric humans living lives we now call simple, crude even. Technology is rudimentary, nutrition is basic, community is immediate. Life is fickle. Oats, berries, seeds are gathered, beasts are hunted, shelter is sought or contrived, and in this rough sketch we picture the pursuit of animals, hunting with crude weapons, clubs, knives, spears, and meat is procured. For man to hunt, and man it is in that picture, is it not? Those basic weapons are crucial. Civilization itself is nudged along, swept forward by the growth of such technologies. Relics dug up by archaeology shine a light on our understanding of humanity's journey, and these tools, the building blocks of how humanity progressed. Or were they? Every day, oats were gathered, water was gotten, carcasses hauled, babies were born. What were the oats put in? How was the water taken home? How was the meat moved? How were the babies carried? Receptacles. Bowls, shells, nets, baskets, bags. Carriers lost in time and space and story. Evolution. In the 70s, one Elizabeth Fisher proposed an alternate theory around evolution. It challenged the widely accepted and assumed man as hunter understanding of how humankind has evolved. This understanding had placed the act of hunting at the center of life, a cornerstone of civilization. Fisher, while not an anthropologist herself, proposed that at the heart of life in prehistoric times lay the carrier. It is what actually enabled gathering, arguably the most significant component of the hunter gatherer model that sustained early humans. When I first heard this assertion that human survival was spurred most by these humble cultural devices, it sounded new and immediately obvious at the same time. To hold food as it was gathered, to transport it home, to store it, to carry an infant hands free. These seemingly mundane aspects are basic building blocks to organized life. Are they not? Story. In 1986, the author Ursula Le Guin wrote an essay titled The Carrier Bag Theory of Fiction. With an early nod to Fisher's anthropological ideas, Le Guin takes them into the world of storytelling. The result is a fascinating, thought provoking, even moving essay about the stories we tell, the stories we are told, and how we shape them. Like hunting and the hunter lie at the center of most evolutionary explanations, the hero has been made the center of narrative fiction. Conflict, the linear arc, a target, a resolution. Le Guin likens these to a spear, that symbol of hunting, its trajectory, its violence, the endings it looks for. Then she rejects it all. Why must we give primacy to the heroic figure and his violence ridden, straight line flow of conflict and resolution? Why push away the swirling, layered complexities of the everyday and the human, of life itself? The story of the hunt, its action, its violence, these are seen to be soaring tales for humanity. They equal excitement. Yet it is also fundamentally human to gather, be it the useful or the nourishing or the beautiful. Gather, collect, preserve, and in so doing, survive, sustain, thrive. The killing story versus the life story. So instead, she likens a book to a receptacle. She says, I would go so far as to say that the natural, proper, fitting shape of the novel might be that of a sack, a bag, one holding words, meaning, and eventually our relations to one another. From the essay, conflict, competition, stress, struggle, etc., within the narrative conceived as carrier bag, belly, box, house, medicine bundle, may be seen as necessary elements of a whole, which itself cannot be characterized either as conflict or as harmony, since its purpose is neither resolution nor stasis, but continuing process. Does that not sound much like life? Neither resolution nor stasis, change, evolution, movement, the continuing process? People. Fisher came to her view from a gender perspective. Naming it the carrier bag theory of evolution, she said it was, quote, an attempt to look with a female perspective at what till now had been seen largely through the male eye, end quote. Now, the male human had long been placed at the center of human evolution, spear in hand, hunter and protector, powerful, violent, heroic. She challenged this in Woman's Creation, her book, which is described as the story of human evolution from a feminist point of view. She argued for the heroic male hunter to be de-centered and the everyday, often female coded work of gathering, carrying, feeding, and caregiving in human evolution that be brought to the foreground. This might well sound familiar because it is a battle economists wage even today to recognize the unpaid labor of homes and families. It is the story that makes the difference. It is the story that hid my humanity from me. The story the mammoth hunters told about bashing, thrusting, raping, killing, about the hero. The wonderful, poisonous story of botulism. The killer story. Thus do Le Guin's words point us beyond the nature of stories. With her carrier bag, cultures and communities can be viewed as spaces that hold many voices, many realities together. Conflict is one element rather than the organizing principle. It matters too whose stories we tell. Spectacular kills versus the hidden, persistent role of feeding, healing, raising children, maintaining relationships. Patriarchal narratives have defined civilization around conquest and public heroism, and maybe just a pat on the back for the role of nurturing, nourishing, cooperating, preserving memories. Le Guin is keen we don't confuse this with quiet, zero aggression, peace ridden lens. She wants no illusions about her own persona, as she says, I am not, let it be said at once, an unaggressive or uncombative human being. I am an aging, angry woman, laying mightily about me with my handbag, fighting hoodlums off. However, I don't, nor does anybody else, consider myself heroic for doing so. It's just one of those damn things you have to do in order to be able to go on gathering wild oats and telling stories. While it was Fisher's theory of evolution that piqued my interest, Le Guin's essay took me by the hand and bade me sit down. You might think unusually for such a piece, but I also find myself moved by it. If you feel like a listen instead, the essay is read in a quietly thoughtful mood by one Finlay Hall. I have linked to that and, of course, to the essay itself. Some notes. I have read two Ursula K Le Guin's novels just this year and a handful in all. I am no expert on her body of work, but I do wish to read them all. There is this deeply human quality to her stories, one that feels like it is embracing layers, perspectives, and thinking and being. That's the best I can do in describing this quality, which draws me in and keeps me there. If you haven't come across her, Le Guin is one of the most acclaimed speculative fiction writers, with multiple award winning work in science fiction novels and the Earthsea fantasy series, and much else besides. I enjoy the otherworldliness of her books, but I wouldn't want you to slot them preemptively into sci fi, especially if you don't normally read the genre. Interestingly, Le Guin spoke of her challenge in continuing to write solo hero and male characters back in 1977, at a time when she had achieved success and knew how to write those books, which did well, but she didn't want to anymore. That crisis of hers, as it was called, was many years before she wrote this essay. The essay itself surged back into consciousness with a book reprint circa 2019. Despite my growing affection for her novels, I did not come upon the carrier bag theory via Ursula Le Guin. A chance short video from Pakistani design researcher Syed Faizan Raza Rizvi introduced me to this lens on evolution, which was Fisher's. That in turn meant I was soon exposed to what I was then to realize was a very influential essay in the literary world, though clearly it speaks for so much more than writing fiction. Elizabeth Fisher was a writer, editor, translator, publisher, teacher, and feminist, though her name and this idea are most often, I suppose, connected to Le Guin's essay instead. Her theory of evolution is not a standard model, but we can see how it plays a role in reinterpreting old assumptions. It encourages the debate whether early human life was most shaped by violent competition and technology, or by carrying, gathering, storage, caregiving, and cooperation. In our current techno fueled discourse, I find that compelling. Nostalgic dribbles. Some splashes of nostalgia or nostalgic simulations this week, spurred by different elements.
एक क्या साडी आशा जेना साडियां सुख सबेलियां नु दिन रात मनाउंदी ਏ किमर करके
Everybody needs a bosom for a pillow. The legendary Indian playback singer Asha Bhosle passed away recently at 92. It was a life eminently lived. Her final, unlikely, I suppose, project was a collaboration with English band Gorillaz, appearing on The Shadowy Light in their Indian influenced album The Mountain. Keen readers will astutely point out that I wrote about this album very recently. Her passing resulted in the hearing of some old Hindi music, both intentional and perchance. But my nostalgia around her news came from a track by a motley group of British Punjabis. Corner Shop sang about Miss Bhosle back in 1997 in their strange but compelling third album, When I Was Born for the Seventh Time. An enjoyable, sometimes amusing collection of pop, hip hop, Punjabi melodies, and lo fi funk.
brimful of Asha on the 45 while it's a brimful of Asha on the 45
Brimful of Asha was their tribute of sorts to Asha Bhosle and Indian film music culture in general, calling the Doyen Sadi Rani or our Queen in Punjabi. The track was a hit in the UK and internationally, in no small part boosted by Fatboy Slim's very fun remix. I chanced upon this cassette in a friend's elder brother's collection, and the album has been an enjoyable go to for me every now and then ever since. Arguably, my favorite track, though, is Good to Be on the Road Back Home, featuring one Paula Fraser. It inexplicably moves me and has for 2 decades. Flipping the cord. Getting closer to India, a recent campaign for a homegrown fashion brand got some attention. My own attention was demanded by its wonderful art direction, quirky styling, and a distinct take on Indian train journeys in the 90s and that summer holiday feel. Nostalgia is powerful. You might feel like you see more of it in recent years, and you'd be right. The internet archives and social media have been a fertile ground for nostalgia bait, I suppose. Many brands have leaned into the rose tinted goodness too, so done well, that taps into our fondest memories and draws out a kind of emotional warmth. Great for brands, I suppose. Now, nostalgia must find its tribe, though. An Indian slow fashion crafters, Cord Studio, embraced theirs with their 2026 Spring Summer collection. But Album 91, as it's called, doesn't feel merely like some convenient comfort provided by the familiar or the once lived. Both style and substance gently jolt you out of any soft stupor that nostalgia might induce. I love the feel of a studio set, pushing it to the max so it connects to another very Indian past, photo studios. Minimal movement, droll expressions, static frames, they all work so well. Oh, and the primacy of sound, the audio is a main character. Announcements, train tracks, clinking cutlery, vendors, a stray radio. With one of the train announcements, I almost thought I could smell that train smell, that not always pleasant smell mixed with so much else. The clothes are the product, of course, and we don't really forget that. They are not cookie cutter, not mildly pushing some vague boundaries. They heighten that sense of being somehow both familiar and purposefully distinct. There are many little videos accompanying that main film that I have linked here, and those rely entirely on ambient sound, station, carriage, train, announcer, even strains of the Doordarshan opening music. And while the nostalgia is surely all very Indian, the aesthetic and creative execution are striking in a much wider way, bold enough to stand on their own and resonate beyond borders. Well, at least if social media takes from around the world are anything to go by. The clothes themselves, I leave it to you to see if they feel warmly familiar, dated, reinvented, or distinct, hanging outside of time. Love fruit? Think again. Last week, the Color Bar, which is my newsletter on content, creative, entertainment, and tech, was titled Rivers, Nukes, Melons, and Whimsy, where I featured branding for the Amazon, the region, and the river, not the corporate behemoth, a brilliant copyright heist for the environment, Moo Melon for the win, and charming whimsy from Zendaya. I also recently managed to orchestrate cartoon gorgeousness and cartoon slop in the same dispatch. So, yes, I do think it's worth heading over for all the visual goodness and some of the visual dodginess. Masala peanuts. Long live the cookbook. Quote, you may never cook a recipe from that book on your coffee table, but it is a marker of participation in a conversation about food, about culture, and what you subscribe to. End quote. Cookbooks have become highly visual products, and this might be part of the reason that instead of fading away as predicted by many with the digital era, they are instead thriving. City work. Couples in China have found a new dating trend, riding scooters and delivering meals together. Quote, it involves maps, missions, and unexpected events. It's much more entertaining than sitting at home playing video games, and we can use the money we earn right away. Everyone is lying to you for money. But you knew that. Now, here I've linked to a trailer for a new documentary that is, quote, pulling back the curtain on the cryptocurrency industry and the culture of hype, misinformation, and speculation that fueled its explosive rise. I'll finish with a quote I've started with, and I'll tell you that it is from the book Moon Witch Spider King by Marlon James. Memory was sometimes a ghost offering a gift you don't always want instead of a possession you already have.